Hey, it's John at Tinderbox Arts. This is my R1200RT. It's a 2012 model year, and I'm finally getting around to upgrading the headlights to LED. Now, if you have a 2005 to 2013 model year bike, it's going to be substantially similar or identical to what you're looking at here. LED headlights did not come on this standard. Normally, you'd have probably a halogen light. And, the LED lights are superior in a number of ways. For one thing, they last a lot longer. So nobody relishes changing these bulbs because it can be difficult to get physical access with your hand. There are a number of tricks to get around that, but it's always a pain. And the other upgrade is that the LED tends to be brighter, so you can be seen on the road better and you can see down the road better. So for those reasons, most people do upgrade eventually, but there are two things you need to be aware of when you're trying to upgrade. So the first potential issue is that the RT electrical system, like a lot of modern cars and bikes, has a CANBUS network instead of fuses. So rather than each circuit being controlled by a fuse, this CANBUS network in a little computer monitors each circuit, and if it senses a problem, which might be drawing too much power on that circuit or drawing too little power on that circuit based on pre-programmed values, it will either shut that circuit down or it will throw a code on the dash. Now, when we have incandescent or halogen bulbs in the headlights, there's a program value, a certain resistance that the computer expects to see there. And that's based on those pre-programmed values. You can't change it. LED technology, it draws inherently less power than an incandescent bulb, which is good, except that because we have these pre-programmed values, the computer with the CANBUS system will sense a problem and it will throw a code on the dash or maybe even shut the circuit down. So there is a fix for this, and ironically it makes the LED lights less efficient, but basically what it does is throw a resistor into the LED light circuit, and that artificially raises the amount of resistance in that bulb, and it looks the same, it mimics a incandescent bulb or a halogen bulb, and that makes the computer happy. In the process, you're losing some efficiency, but that is what it is. So the first problem is when we buy an LED bulb, we have to make sure it's CANBUS compatible, meaning that it has a built-in resistor which mimics a halogen or incandescent bulb. The second problem is that the back of the headlight housing on this bike has these dust covers, which prevents water from getting in there, which is good. However, it does prevent the use of a very large bulb because, there's limited physical space back here. So we have to look at that as well. So with those two factors in mind, let's compare a standard H7 bulb. This is a halogen bulb, and you can see the physical size is quite different from this LED version. The LED version has two things which make it bigger. One is it has a cooling fan on the back. Now, not all halogen bulbs have a cooling fan, some do not. If you want to get the brightest ones and the ones that will last the longest, it is going to have that cooling fan. The other thing it has is this little disc right here, and inside that disc is going to be an additional resistor which helps it mimic the same resistance that would be found in an incandescent bulb. So this solves both problems. The question is, does it physically fit in that housing? Well, after testing this particular one, I did find that I could make it fit and that it would install without causing the CANBUS system to throw a code on the dash. So this is successful, it works. I have one installed and I'm going to continue installing the other two. So now that I've tested this model and I know it works, I will put a link in the description so you can purchase the same one if you wish. I should mention two things. One, there are kits available for some retailers, Cyclops is one of them, where it's all laid out for you and guaranteed to work for your particular bike, but those kits tend to be pretty expensive and this is going to be a cheaper option. The other thing I should mention is that where you live may determine what you can buy. So this is available in the United States, at least right now, but in the UK or Australia or wherever else, you may find that your options are going to be different. So that's something to keep in mind. Now let me mention one other thing about LED lights that you should be aware of. There is a color associated with different types of light bulbs. There's a scale called the Kelvin scale. It's 0 to 10,000 is the scale, and that's called color temperature. So the color temperature of an LED light is going to be much higher, meaning it's going to look much more blue than an incandescent light, which is going to be lower on the Kelvin scale, and it's going to look more yellowish. The one problem you're going to run into is that there's a running light or parking light up here, and you probably want those two to match, otherwise it looks funny. So if you change this headlight to an LED, you're going to want to change this little light up here to an LED as well. The LED lights tend to be on the 6,000, 6,500 Kelvin scale. An incandescent light is going to be much lower. So I found in my testing that this running light or parking light up here tends to be less critical as far as the CANBUS system. It seems to be more tolerant of a difference up here. So I don't think it's as critical up here, but I know for a fact if you get the wrong type of LED light down here on the H7 bulb, that it will throw a code. With all that out of the way, these are the bulbs that I purchased. The brand is called Mars Auto. You want the H7, because they make other styles. You want the H7 bulb, and it comes packaged like this. They give you a little instruction booklet. They're very well packaged, actually. And then when you pull them out, the bulbs will look like this. Now, when you install a halogen bulb, it's pretty simple. You put it in the hole. There's a ring here that registers the bulb correctly. There's a spring clip on the housing which flips down and holds this in place, and then you just connect the electrical there. The LED bulbs with the fan are different. The fan is too big to allow that spring clip to flip down. So instead, there's a ring that is attached here, and you can remove that ring temporarily. Then you install this ring. Again, it's going to register in that hole correctly, and you'll put that spring clip over the back here. Now this ring, this blue ring here, is attached to the housing, and you can take the LED bulb, insert it in that ring. Notice there's an O-ring there, rubber O-ring. You'll insert it in that ring and then give it a twist, and that will hold it in place. Now, when we connect the electrical, we need to remember that there is polarity. So if you connect it and the bulb doesn't light up or you get a code, well, you need to flip it 180 degrees because the polarity is probably wrong. Now, in a previous video, I showed how to install the light bulbs, and in that video, I removed the housing entirely just so you could see it and understand what you're doing when you're trying to reach up in there blind and do it by feel. So that is one option, take the whole thing out and do it that way, but you don't need to. To reach these bulbs from behind, there's a couple tricks. For one thing, this side right here, I already have the LED bulb in there, and I didn't have any of these side plastics off or anything like that. All I did was kneel in front of the front tire here, reach your hand up under like this, and now I'm holding the camera at the same time, which is a little tricky. But when you do, you can reach up far enough here to get that dust cover off, to remove the electrical connector, and then release that spring. And you can do it all by feel, and it becomes pretty obvious. But kneeling in front of that front tire on this side is usually the easiest way. Now, on the middle and on the left side, it's a little bit different. For the left side, I think usually reaching in from here is probably the easiest for most people. And you can turn, the handlebars a little bit to give yourself a little bit more space right here. Now, I do have the plastics off here, otherwise I wouldn't be able to show you anything with the camera. But in fact, I'll hold the camera in my left hand here, and if I reach in here, there's the dust cover. And just to show you that you can do this one-handed, now I'm reaching for the electrical connector, which can be a little tricky. All right, that's the electrical connector, I think. Yeah, there it is. And then there's the right side of the spring and the left side there. There's the left side. I swing it out of the way, and there's the bulb. So it doesn't have to be difficult if you have some of these tricks in your head, but if you haven't done this at all, expect there's a little bit more fussing. Now the middle bulb, let me think about this. Yeah, I usually reach in right from here. That's actually easier. So right now I have this plastic area off here, and that does give a little bit extra room, but even with that in place, you can reach in here and do that. All right, so the reason I took the plastic off was so I could show you this on camera. So here's the hole. The dust cover went in here. Here's the electrical connector. and this is the spring clip. So all we need to do now is, let's see if I get my hand in there, that hole right there needs to be filled with that blue ring, and then I will swing this clip down over that ring to hold it in place. Now the old bulb you see here at the top has a notch, and that does need to be oriented correctly, and the blue ring has that same notch up top, so it works the same way. All right, so there's the blue ring in place. There's the electrical connector hanging out. Now let me mention something about this electrical connector. First of all, remember there is polarity, so we want to make sure we get the positive and negative right. And you can see this connector is damaged, right? The plastic is broken off. And this is pretty common because they get hot from the incandescent bulbs and they just get brittle and it breaks off. So not really a problem, other than I would like to get some electrical tape over the exposed metal parts, because eventually I'm just going to stuff this into the housing wherever it'll go, and I don't want it to short out by touching something else. It's unlikely, but I still don't want it to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert the bulb into the electrical connector. I'm going to make sure that the polarity is correct by starting the bike and making sure the light comes on. And then I'm going to put some electrical tape around this so that when I put it all back in there, there's no problems. Now to identify polarity, if I can get this there, you see there's a brown, or two brown wires and a yellow with a stripe. The brown wires are the ground or the negative. And on the new connector, it is labeled with a plus and a minus, which is positive and which is negative. And because my eyes are so bad, I actually put a bigger marking on there so I could find it myself. All right, so I have that connected right there. That's all set. I haven't put the tape on yet. I just want to double check that the bulb works, that the polarity is correct, and that I don't get a error message on the dash. So that's connected. I'm just gonna get up here and turn the bike on briefly. Now you do need to start it up. And so I confirmed that it lit up all right. I confirmed that there's no error message up here, so we're in good shape. So now I can put some tape around that connector, shove everything in there, and then this bulb just gets pushed into that ring, right? And then twist lock basically. And then once I do that, I'm going to show you something on the front. All right, so there's the bulb mounted. You can see the back of the fan right there, the cooling fan. And you can see there's plenty of room for the dust cover on top of that. In fact, there's room behind this. Now, what I wanted to show you in the front here is that you want to make sure there's two, light emitting diodes, right, on one side and the other side. And you want to make sure they are oriented in this position. So, the light is going in the right direction. It will work if it's in a different direction, but this is the correct way. Basically at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock is where you want to orient those light emitting diodes. So that's two of them in. Remember, we have the middle one to do as well, but that works the same way. Now let me mention how to do these lights, on these running lights or parking lights on the side here, because you do want them to match color temperature wise. So just out of sheer stubbornness, I decided to see if I could do this one without taking anything off. And I actually did. There was a way barely to reach my hand up in there and untwist the little locking mechanism, pull this out and replace the bulb. But I don't really think it's physically possible on the other side, and really there's no reason to do it on this side either. So the way you get access to this is to take off the mirror. There's a set screw under here. Again, I have a video on this. There's a set screw under here. You loosen the set screw, pull the mirror or pop it off. Once you do, there's going to be a single bolt up here that you loosen. And when you do, this piece of housing right here will flop off. That gives you access to this bulb, this turn signal. And there's a little access panel right here that gives you room to stick your hand in and replace this bulb down here. So that's how you do it. All right, I've got all three installed. Now there is one drawback to this particular brand, which is that they are sold in pairs. So you are going to be left with one extra, which you could keep for the future, or possibly this company will start selling them individually, or maybe they do and I just don't know it. So that's something to check on. But in any case, it's still cheaper than trying to do like Cyclops or something like that. So let's take a look at what this looks like. I'll bring it around and start her up. All right, we're clear here. There's no error message, so that's good. And if I show you the front here, they are quite bright. I mean, it is, you know, I estimated a 30% difference before, but I think it's actually more than that. It's quite bright. And the color temperature matches between them, so I'm very pleased. Yeah, they really look good. What a difference. You know, it's worth doing this, and I should have done it sooner, but here we are. So I will put the link in the description, as I said, so you can get bulbs that you know will work. But I think this is well worth the effort and well worth the cost.